place of instance in order to recreate that particular crime scene, to see as to what had actually conspired and what has actually transpired on those days. So very clearly, these were the people behind this successful prosecution and in fact this denial of bail to Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam somewhere or the other, because they had led that case. They had compiled a billion pages of a billion megabytes of these documents, and in fact humongous pages of charge sheet and electronic evidence was actually calibrated and was actually compiled by this big team of Delhi Police's lawyers. In fact, it was earlier only led by Mr. Amit Prasad and Mr. Raju, but there were more and more additions taken, seeing the seriousness of this case and the humongous paperwork that was actually required in this particular case. But coming back to the verdict that's been passed by the topmost court of the country, the Supreme Court is very, very clear that the grant of bail to Miran Haider, Gulfisha Fatima and others is something that is that should not be seen as a dilution of any charge, but very clearly also saying that though there is Article 21 right of life that is available to everybody in this country, but at the same point of time, it also comes with certain restrictions.
Well, Ananya, also, of course, a big win for the prosecution with Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam's bail being denied by all the courts now, the trial court, the high court, and now the apex court. But it's also there are a lot of onus now on the trial court to carry out a speedy trial in this matter, because that has been also a big argument by Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam that, the trial is very slow. Do you see some speed catching up actually on the trial now?
Well, absolutely. The trial was already in place. The judges are holding framing of charges. But if you see the Delhi High Court judgment, it holds all the answers to the delay in that particular trial, because the Delhi High Court has very categorically held. In fact, it was the judgment in Tasneem Ahmed where the High Court had held that it was the accused persons themselves, in fact, those who were out on bail in connivance with those who are inside, that the trial was being delayed because of frivolous applications. So whether the Supreme Court has dealt with that aspect or not is something that we'll have to wait for the detailed judgment copy to come out. But very clearly, the topmost court of the country, Aman, is very, very clear as far as things are concerned, because it says that though the right to life is something that is very, very instrumental to the Constitution of India, but also the preservation of public order and maintenance of law and order in the country is something that, and national security is something that is of paramount importance as well. And hence, the denial of bail comes in for Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam, because their role was central to this complete conspiracy. If you remember that they were a part of various groups, including Muslim students of Jamia, JACT, Jamia, Jamia Coordination Committee, or the JCC. So all of these groups, Muslim students of JNU and JCC, were actually the two major groups where all of this conspiracy was actually hatched. These were the WhatsApp groups that were used for mobilization. And in fact, Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam have also been accused. In fact, more importantly, Umar Khalid has been accused of bringing in illegal Bangladeshi women to these protest site, and that is something, that is why the Supreme Court felt that their role is something that is more instrumental to this conspiracy, and hence their bail have been denied by the topmost court of the country. Aman.
All right. Well, Ananya, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. Of course, we'll continue to track all developments on this closely, but we are going to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. News and updates will continue on the other side on CNN News 18.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Imam's bail has been dismissed by the Supreme Court.
Absolutely. So this is the latest that we are getting right now. Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam do not surpass the bar under 43D 5 UAPA. This has been observed by the Supreme Court. Umar and Sharjeel Imam's bail has now been dismissed. The Supreme Court has further said that the Supreme Court is satisfied that prosecution discloses prima facie roles of Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam to the extent of planning and organization. So this is the latest that we're getting right now. Advocate Verma, let me just come back to you on this. So this is the big development that we're getting right now. Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam do not surpass the bar under 43D 5 UAPA. I will come to you. Let me just go across to Anshul. Anshul, what can you tell us?
Well, yes, this is very significant, and this actually sets the precedence in such cases as well. That the Supreme Court and the investigation, in fact, this is kind of a stamp on the investigation that has been done by the agencies over the last 5 years, and the several charge sheets that have been filed by the Delhi police. After going through the material of the case, the Supreme Court is of the opinion that at this point in time, at this point in time, a bail cannot be granted to both Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam, because the kind of evidences that have been produced in front of the courts by the agencies, that clearly indicates that there was this larger conspiracy that was already being hashed to somewhere or the other go ahead and create issues within the country, create security issues within the country, and that is the reason why the bail of both Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam have been denied. The Supreme Court has in fact gone ahead and very clearly stated the extent of planning and organization, and how the Supreme Court is actually satisfied that the prosecution that has disclosed the prima facie roles of Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam to the extent of planning and organization. So this is clearly a very big win for the Delhi police, who has been opposing this entire bail plea right from the beginning, right from the lower courts to the High Court, and now in the Supreme Court as well. The Delhi police.
Welcome back to CNN News 18. Thank you so much for staying with us. Here's a quick look at all the other stories which are making headlines today. Let's get started. Allu Arjun and his wife Sneha Reddy's quiet evening out in Hyderabad turned chaotic after they were spotted by fans at Cafe Nilofer on Saturday. The couple had stepped out after the soft launch of Allu Arjun's new multiplex, Allu Cinemas, when fans quickly gathered at the cafe. Videos shared online show the actor holding Sneha close as people crowded around them for selfies and videos. Despite security being present, the crowd kept crowing. Allu Arjun was seen politely asking fans to move back so that Sneha could walk safely. Cafe staff helped by keeping the doors open as the couple tried to make their way out. A dispute at a Gurdwara in Dhule escalated sharply when two groups confronted each other with sticks and swords around 9:30 p.m. on Sunday. The 4th of December, that is. A major tragedy was averted due to timely police intervention based on complaints filed by both sides late at night. The police have registered cases against nearly 15 people. In the same incident, the Gurdwara's religious head, Baba Dheeraj Singh, was critically injured in a sword attack and later died while undergoing treatment. Given the scale and seriousness of the crime, the investigation has now been transferred to the Criminal Investigation Department. A 27-year-old Indian woman reported missing since New Year's Eve was found dead with stab wounds inside her ex-boyfriend's apartment in Maryland. The police said her body was found at an apartment owned by Arjun Sharma, 26, her ex-boyfriend. The investigators have obtained an arrest warrant charging the ex-boyfriend with both first and second-degree murder. All right, and with that, we're going to call it a wrap on this edition of the News Bulletin. News and updates will continue on the other side. Do stay tuned.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Imam's bail has been dismissed by the Supreme Court.
Absolutely. So this is the latest that we are getting right now. Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam do not surpass the bar under 43D 5 UAPA. This has been observed by the Supreme Court. Umar and Sharjeel Imam's bail has now been dismissed. The Supreme Court has further said that the Supreme Court is satisfied that prosecution discloses prima facie roles of Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam to the extent of planning and organization. So this is the latest that we're getting right now. Advocate Verma, let me just come back to you on this. So this is the big development that we're getting right now. Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam do not surpass the bar under 43D 5 UAPA. I will come to you. Let me just go across to Anshul. Anshul, what can you tell us?
Well, yes, this is very significant, and this actually sets the precedence in such cases as well. That the Supreme Court and the investigation, in fact, this is kind of a stamp on the investigation that has been done by the agencies over the last 5 years and the several charge sheets that have been filed by the Delhi police. After going through the material of the case, the Supreme Court is of the opinion that at this point in time, a bail cannot be granted to both Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam because the kind of evidences that have been produced in front of the courts by the agencies that clearly indicates that there was this larger conspiracy that was already being hashed to somewhere or the other go ahead and create issues within the country, create security issues within the country, and that is the reason why the bail of both Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam have been denied. The Supreme Court has in fact gone ahead and very clearly stated the extent of planning and organization and how the Supreme Court is actually satisfied that the prosecution that has disclosed the prima facie roles of Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam to the extent of planning and organization. So this is clearly a very big win for the Delhi police, who has been opposing this entire bail plea.
Hello and welcome. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Hem Kaur Saroya, and here's the latest that we are getting for you right now. A big setback for Sharjeel Imam and Umar Khalid. The Supreme Court today denied bail to them. In the Delhi riots conspiracy case, the court said that there is enough initial evidence to suggest their involvement under the anti-terror law UAPA. Judges noted that the material shows that they played a key role in planning, in mobilization and overall direction of events and are central to the entire conspiracy. However, the court granted bail to 5 other accused, namely Gulfasha Fatima, Meera Haider, Shifa-ur-Rahman, Muhammad Salim Khan and Shadab Ahmed, warning that misuse of bail could lead to complete cancellation. The court said Khalid and Imam can apply for bail again after protected witnesses are examined or after 1 year, whichever happens first. Let's listen to the reactions that have come in also.
इसमें यही कहना चाहेंगे दो लोगों को बेल नहीं दिया, उसके लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट का शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहेंगे। लेकिन 5 लोगों को बेल देना ही दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है, जो कि नहीं देनी चाहिए। अगर उनको बेल दी जाती है तो हम 15 सनातनियों के जिनके बेटे और भाई मारे गए हैं उनको भी फांसी देने जैसा काम किया जा रहा है। हम चाहते हैं आगे फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट में रेगुलर सुनवाई के दौरान इनको कम से कम सजा दी जाए, तो मौत की सजा देना आवश्यक है, जो आगे भविष्य में इस तरह के दंगे ना हो।
नहीं, कोई कमेंट नहीं है, नो कमेंट।
किस तरह से देखते हैं?
नो कमेंट, अनफॉर्चुनेट। नहीं, कुछ नहीं कहना है, जो जजमेंट आ गया वो आपके सामने है, उसमें क्या कहने की जरूरत है।
All right, so let's just take you through the major observations in this entire verdict. The prosecution disclosed prima facie roles of Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam. Now, the Supreme Court has said that it is satisfied to the extent of planning and organization. Sharjeel Imam and Umar Khalid's role was central to the conspiracy, is what they've observed. Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam stand on a different footing than others, and they have done this deliberately so that every appellant can be judged, is not judged equally. Delay alone cannot operate as a trump card for bail, as well as noting that offences regarding security of the nation require a different bail regime. The nation's security, preservation of public order are important facets, is something that they've noted as well in their verdict. And terrorist act is not only violence but is also disruption of essential services. Assessment of persons' liberty is different in cases of threatening foundation of state. The 10th observation here, incarceration only due to mere passage of time cannot be considered punishment. So this was the Supreme Court's verdict in the 2020 Delhi riots case, where Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam have been denied bail. For more on this, we have Ananya Bhatnagar, who had been bringing us all these updates from the Supreme Court. Now, Ananya, of course, you heard first what was really happening inside. What were some of the key highlights for you?
Well, absolutely. In fact, it is a very crucial judgment that has come out of the Supreme Court. A bench headed by Justice Arvind Kumar and, in fact, N.V. Anjaria that has delivered this particular verdict coming out of the topmost court of the country, very categorically putting Sharjeel Imam and Umar Khalid on a different footing, because these were the people, and in fact, the Delhi police charge sheet also puts them on a different footing, saying that, these were the masterminds, the kingpins of this criminal conspiracy that was hatched in the garb of a peaceful protest. Violence was to be erupted. Essential services were to be jammed so that there is a chaos that happens in the national capital. That too at a time when Donald Trump was on a visit to India, and that is exactly what this whole criminal conspiracy is about. The conspiracy begins in two phases. These are riots that happened in two phases. One phase was the December 2019 phase, when in fact violence had erupted in Jamia. Later on in the second phase in February, the violence had erupted in the northeast Delhi, and that is exactly how they learned from their mistakes in the first phase. They saw how people were not actually supporting their idea of violence, and later when they learned from their first phase of Jamia, they actually implemented changes in the plan as far as the second leg of this violence was concerned. As far as the northeast Delhi was concerned, they brought in Bangladeshi women, illegal immigrants, in order to fuel these protests, to fuel this agenda of violence that had to be erupted. 53 people were left dead, including in fact various policemen. In fact, Head Constable Ratan Lal was one of the key people who had actually died in this particular case, and a young IB official who was also killed during this violence that had erupted, and was actually facilitated by the likes of Umar Khalid, Sharjeel Imam, Tahir Hussain, Ishrat Jahan, Gulfisha Fatima, Devangna Kalita, and various other accused persons. The 59 of 2020, the case that was registered by in fact the special cell of the Delhi police, was in fact with regards to the larger conspiracy, and people Umar Khalid, Sharjeel Imam and Tahir Hussain were the key instrumental people, the key accused in this particular case, along with Devangna Kalita and Gulfisha Fatima. The Supreme Court has placed on record that very categorically the role of Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam is very, very different, while in fact Gulfisha Fatima, Miran Haider and the other persons who had applied for bail stand on a different footing, because they were not the central, they did not play the central role, but were facilitators of this violence that had erupted out in the national capital in the year of 2020, February 26 is to be precise, and very categorically during the Trump's visit.
All right, Nanya, of course, we're also getting more information right now. Now, after the top court delivered this verdict on Delhi riots, the Congress leader Udit Raj has called it extremely unfortunate, saying that it's unfortunate that bail was denied to Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam. So this is, of course, reactions are now going to be pouring in after the verdict has been pronounced by the Supreme Court. And this is the latest that we are getting right now, where Congress leader Udit Raj has now said that it's extremely unfortunate that bail was denied here. Now, for more on this, we also have with us Anshul. Anshul, let me just come to you. Of course, there are a couple of things that need to be highlighted here, as Ananya has. Also, offences regarding security of nation require a different bail regime under the Act. Now, Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam don't surpass under 43D, 5 UAPA. Now, these are some of the observations of the Supreme Court as well. What can you tell us?
Oh, well, definitely. This is a very technical order that has come in from the Supreme Court, because now it has probably for the first time been defined the exact role, and based on that role, if at all a bail can be granted in UAPA cases or not. So this is one of a kind order that will have implications in other UAPA cases as well. Now, in this order, very categorically, the Supreme Court has gone into the exact role of all the accused who were still behind the bars before granting them bail. If you look at the role of Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam, the Delhi police was of this exact opinion that this was a larger conspiracy that was hatched initially just to go ahead and carry out disruptions inside the country, and hamper the security of our country. Apart from that, the other people who have been given bail, the Supreme Court has gone into details of their role as well. Now, they although the Delhi police had alleged that these people were also part of that larger conspiracy, but their role was not as massive as that of Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam. Now, this is a precedence that has now been set by the Supreme Court, because before this it was seen as almost impossible for anyone to get a bail when UAPA is imposed against them or invoked against them. But now the Supreme Court for the first time has gone into the details of each and every person, their exact role, and based on that role a bail can be granted or not. This is something that has been done by the Supreme Court, and this is something that is very, very significant. And